Warning: this video will contain potentially disturbing footage from the Russo-Ukrainian conflict of 2014 and the conflict that is currently ongoing. Some of these images may be hard to watch, so viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, I'm Captain Titan. Welcome back to another video where today we're going to be talking about something a little more serious, so if we can refrain from making jokes in the comment section, that would be very much appreciated. Today I'm going to be talking about the secret behind Verdansk, the inspiration, where it came from, the real-life equivalent. And along with this, there's going to be discussion of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, because this region of, quote, Verdansk is heavily based off of Russia and Ukraine. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, let's take a look at where Verdansk is situated in real life, like where it's supposed to be situated based off of the in-game geography. So looking at this picture from the Season 4 Modern Warfare Battle Pass / story teaser, we can see that on Captain Price's monitor, Verdansk is located here. So when we look at this on a map, it's located in what is Chechnya. And this is important because there was a pretty brutal conflict between Russia and separatist forces in Chechnya, which had a lot of story taken. A lot of story aspects were taken from that war. Actually, pretty interestingly, both Minotaur and Bale are both brothers, and they are veterans of the First and Second Chechen Wars. Now, looking more at Verdansk as to what it is and what it looks like from its own features, we can see that it's actually based off of the Ukrainian city of Donetsk. This is a bordering city in the eastern region of the country, and this is very obvious if you look at some of the places like the airport, the dam, the superstore, the National Bank, and other such places. So the way I wanted to break this down was to look at the story of Verdansk in Call of Duty, and then the significance of a lot of these locations that they put into the map, and then look at the real-life significance of Donetsk and talk about its significance in both the 2014 conflict and the modern-day conflict. So starting off in the Call of Duty storyline, Verdansk actually really comes into relevance in Season 3 of Black Ops Cold War, in which after Russell Adler is captured and he is transported to Verdansk, Stitch tries to brainwash him to carry out sabotage actions all across the great Russian city of Verdansk. On top of this, by using the assistance of operators Wraith and Viking, she's able to get, Wraith is able to obtain the broadcasting reels for Dragovich's brainwash sleeper agent program, and Stitch's plan is to activate all these sleeper agents across the United States to wreak havoc and change the balance of the Cold War for Russia. Now, the next step is obviously the United States has satellites that would be blocking the signal, so Wraith links up with Stitch, and they dispatch Jackal to down all of these satellites, causing the Skyfall event within Call of Duty, and now the signal is clear. In Season 5, using Kitsune, they were able to broadcast and activate a lot of these sleeper agents, which causes the destruction of Verdansk in Season 6. And finally, after Season 6, Stitch has completed his mission and Adler kills him, and the story of Verdansk is relatively over. The East and West now work together to rebuild Verdansk into the city that it would become in Modern Warfare 2019. Now, the story from here gets tied into the Modern Warfare 2019 storyline, so it's a little complicated. So following the events of Modern Warfare 2019, Al-Qatala, the Middle Eastern-based terrorist group, decides to re-emerge with a new leader, Khaled al-Assad, and they launch their invasion of Verdansk. Now, looking that Verdansk is a huge city within Russia, both the West and Russia agree that this is an important matter that needs to be solved as one unit together, so they form the Armistice Coalition. The Armistice Coalition consists of Tier 1 operators from between the Allegiance and Coalition factions within the multiplayer, and they work together to try to take down this terrorist threat within the pre-seasons before Warzone throughout the Spec Ops missions. Now, a man who is secretly pulling the strings behind this whole Al-Qatala al-Malik thing is actually Viktor Zakayev, the son of, it's Viktor Zakayev, son of Imran Zakayev. Imran Zakayev was actually a Soviet-era war hero who was always wanted to start a third world war so that Russia could go back on top and destroy the United States. He wants to gain access to the ICBMs that are stored within Verdansk and launch these at the West as an act of terror to start a third world war. Now, Modern Warfare Seasons 1, 2, and 3 basically talk about the division that's going on. Season 1 with what happens in Crash, Season 2 with between and 3 with Ghost and Alex and what happens with their discussion at Rust and whatnot. And moving into Season 4, you see Captain Price being flown in to help care for the situation because it's becoming a really, really desperate situation over there. Starting with Season 6, we see the involvement of Farah and Nikolai, and the culmination of Season 6 is the cutscene that shows the ending of this entire thing. What ends up happening is with the help of Sergeant Griggs, Kyle Garrick, Alex, Ghost, Price, Farah, and Alex, they are able to actually take care of the situation with a second's notice, with everyone being able to cause a distraction while Price goes in, takes care of Viktor Zakayev, and stops the nuclear launch with the help of Nikolai at the very last second. Now, a season or so later, we see a vessel from the 1900s called the Vodyanoi. This is a Russian cargo freighter that washes up on the shore of Verdansk's prison complex, and it actually has a special cargo on board in the form of zombies and a mass contagion that spreads really fast. The next season or so goes through the operators trying to contain the spread of the zombie outbreak, and it's not able to be saved. Eventually, this culminates in the Battle of Verdansk, where all the operators are trying their hardest to fight off the zombie infection as they move throughout the entire map. Eventually, they meet up at the Gora Dam, where the situation is completely untenable, and CENTCOM authorizes a nuclear launch on Verdansk. This is not an act of war between the West and Russia. This is actually more of, we are going to destroy the zombie threat before it gets so out of hand and so bad that it spreads to other parts of the world. And by 2020, Verdansk is destroyed. It is now a mushroom cloud that has been destroyed with a nuclear launch to destroy the zombies. And that's where Verdansk is currently in the Modern Warfare 2022, the rebooted Modern Warfare storyline. Now, while this is all fun to talk about in terms of the storyline and lore of Call of Duty, it's really important to acknowledge the real-life significance of Verdansk. This city is actually based off of the city of Donetsk in Ukraine, as I've already talked about. Now, I'm going to talk about what happened in Donetsk, the significance of it, and pretty much what it is. So, as I previously said, the city is based on Donetsk, and Donetsk is a bordering region in Ukraine. It's on the eastern side. It's full of a lot of ethnic Russians, and as recently as 2014, the people of the city have declared themselves independent from Ukraine. Now, this has caused a lot of controversy, and I'll get into that later on. But essentially, what happened was there was a lot of clashing between Russian hired mercenaries and pro-Russian separatists within the region and pro-Ukrainian governmental forces. This included clashes between the people at the airport, which is one of the most significant battles of Donetsk, and other such places. The battles have had a significant toll on Ukraine as a country and the nation overall, and has emboldened Russian influence within the region as well, seeing as a lot of these people were ethnic Russians. So I'm also going to talk about a lot of the historical significance of some of these buildings and whatnot. So first of all, I want to look at the Gulag because I kind of want to talk about some of the pretense that happened with this stuff. So the Gulag, or the prison complex within Verdansk, is known for being the place where you 1v1 someone to get back into the fight, but in reality this is very different from what it actually is. The gulags were mass prison complexes used by the Soviet Union to enforce their iron rule during the rules of Stalin and other such leaders. Now, going as this is a whole thing of servitude and whatnot, I kind of want to tie this to how historically the Ukrainians have been enslaved almost by the Soviet Union and Russia. Russia had been the larger power, while Ukraine had always been more prevalent throughout ancient history, and as Russia had gained more power and annexed them during the times of the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin settled hundreds of thousands of ethnic Russians into Ukraine, seeing as these are two different ethnic peoples, and made them work long hours and try to fill massive wheat quotas they could never get, and many people ended up starving within Ukraine because of mass famine. This caused mass resentment and animosity between the Russian government and the Ukrainian people. And this was obviously shown through the multiple times that they tried to declare independence from Russia and the Soviet Union, but have failed. The only time this happened was post-1991 with the dissolution of the Soviet Union, in which Ukraine had finally gained their independence. And after this, Russia had always tried to interfere with their elections to install a pro-Russian puppet that would make them closer to the Russians and keep them away from the West. Now, Russia had always wanted to regain their influence over the Eastern Bloc following the fall of the Soviet Union, and you can see this with how Vladimir Putin and other such leaders have tried with their foreign policy to keep the West out of the East. This unfortunately has failed for them. I'm not going to say unfortunately because I don't want to get into the politics of this. I don't want to get involved with any controversy. I'm just telling people the facts of what's going on. With the joining of Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, and other such ex-Soviet states and ex-Soviet puppets with NATO, the Russian sphere of influence has greatly shrunk within the East. And now the last domino that would clearly tip this over is Ukraine. And following recent efforts by NATO to try to give Ukraine more support weapon-wise and monetarily, this has caused lots of anger by Russia, and a lot of this tension boiled over in 2014. In 2014, mass civil unrest started within the region as Russia annexed Crimea, a peninsula off of Russia that, as I pointed out previously during the map, and this place is settled with a lot of ethnic Russians. Along with this, the cities of Donetsk and Luhansk are actually also filled with a lot of ethnic Russians, which led to a lot of civil unrest in the region. This war was brutal, and actually a lot of the contention was over the Donetsk International Airport, which is the inspiration behind the Verdansk airport, and there was looting at the Metro Superstore, which is also the superstore in Verdansk. On top of that, a lot of the important areas such as the bank and the downtown were under siege and under constant fire between pro-Russian and pro-Ukrainian forces, with a lot of civilians being killed and caught in the crossfire. So looking more at these smaller areas and regions within the area that are being represented within Verdansk, we obviously have the airport, the superstore, the dam I pointed out, the arena, and the bank. So the bank is symbolizing pretty much like the entire downtown region and the city that was constantly under fire between both forces. There was a lot of house-to-house, building-to-building, close quarters warfare that was really brutal between both sides. Obviously, the pro-Russian forces were being funded by Russia, and Russia had also sent in mercenaries into the region. So it wasn't technically a war. It was more of just it was more of Russia sending in mercenaries to fight, and the Ukrainian pro-government forces had also had to fight back, of course, which led to a lot of death between both sides. On top of this, the airport was also a really important strategic location for Ukraine, as they could fly in a lot of supplies and whatnot from other places using the airport. And after many weeks and months of fighting over the airport, it constantly switched hands between the pro-Russian forces and the pro-Ukrainian forces, with the ATC tower being thoroughly destroyed and the rest of the airport as well, the entire overhang over the mezzanine being completely destroyed. The airport was unrecognizable following the battle. On top of that, you also have the Metro Superstore that was also very symbolic of the conflict, as it was a place that was once a superstore bustling with people shopping for supplies for their homes and whatnot, and eventually it became a storage unit for munitions and other such war material for both sides, and it constantly switched hands and was constantly under bombardment from either side during the conflict. Finally, the stadium as well was also a place where multiple peace rallies were held and a lot of protests were held, and finally it was also attacked by both forces trying to maintain control over the region. This also culminated with the deaths of many and the damage and almost destruction of the arena that was actually the site of the 2012 Euro tournament, but it was, destroyed in 2014 partially. And actually there have been restoration efforts ever since 2014 to repair the field and bring it back to what it once was. So what has happened in the region now? So following the wars in 2014, the pro-Russian separatists in both the regions of Donetsk and Luhansk have declared their independence, and they have seen themselves as autonomous from the Ukrainian government ever since. They have tried to grow their ties to Russia over the region, and this culminated as recently as a few weeks ago, where the Russian government had finally recognized Donetsk and Luhansk as independent regions from Ukraine. Many people thought that this would give the Russian government justification to send in troops for, quote, peacekeeping operations, but this had widely escalated as of last week. And last week, of course, we saw the large-scale and wide-scale invasion of Ukraine from multiple fronts from Russian forces, from the north, from Belarus, the northeast, from actual Russians, and from the south, from Crimea that was once annexed by Russia, now had Russian troops making amphibious landings and taking land in the south. The fighting is brutal in this conflict, and many people are getting caught in the crossfire. Ukraine actually has some of the strongest national identity and some of the best morale of many places in the world, and because of this they are actually holding up really, really well for having to fight against one of the world's largest superpowers, and it's really commendable. Unfortunately though, morale doesn't win a war, and a lot of these people are suffering and need help. So I have linked in the top of the description a donation link to help donate money to the Ukrainian conflict. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend checking it out. It's a very worthy cause because a lot of these people are innocent and they are being attacked on their own lands, and they really, really need our help now more than ever. The resistance of the Ukrainian people is very, very strong and very commendable, as seen by myths that haven't been confirmed. I don't want to say they're myths outright, but reports of the, quote, Ghost of Kiev, a fighter pilot that has a supposed kill rate of 6 Russian fighter jets, the Ukrainian Reaper, who is a ground soldier that is estimated to have over 20 confirmed kills, and the fact that the Ukrainian president and his cabinet themselves are fighting on the front lines to defend their own country from Russian aggression. Now that's pretty much as far as I'm going to go in terms of like delving into like the actual specifics of the conflict, because at that point it just gets depressing and it loses its meaning from my original hope to have this be a Call of Duty based video. So that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it. So this was me talking about the historic significance of Verdansk. Again, look at the donation links in the bottom, in the top of the description. It's a really worthy cause, and I highly recommend looking at it and maybe donating something if you can. Of course, if you can't, that's okay. But that is all for this video today. I have been Captain Titan, talking about the situation in Ukraine. Not really, more like the historical implication of Verdansk, and where it really comes from. But that has been me. Thank you all for watching. I've been Captain Titan, signing off.